Hello everyone, my name is Wing Supernova, and welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. In the last episode, we had Courtney and Mr. Enoch Drebber take the stand, and after a fair amount of a game of keep away, legal keep away was pretty much what just happened in the last episode. Enoch Drebber not wanting to even admit that the scene he saw at the graveyard 10 years ago was what he claimed it was. Madame Tuspels came in with a counter argument saying that he's lying about it to help us out. MVP, thank you very much. And now, in order to continue on with our conjecture, we have to establish a motive between Drebber and Asman, and why Drebber would want to kill Asman. And, well, the beginning part is this.
Take that!
Obviously, it's this. It's this newspaper article, my lord, that was written 10 years ago, and every detail has been examined already. What can it possibly tell us? That drivel should never have been written. It's typical gutter-press nonsense that means nothing. Yes, on its own, it isn't particularly significant. However, when considered alongside another piece of evidence, it will completely explain your motive for wanting Mr. Asman dead. What other evidence? Counsel, you will present your supplementary evidence without delay. The evidence, which when cross-referenced with the newspaper article, establishes a motive for the deed. I'm pretty sure it's this, actually, because it's got his signature on it, and it proves that this Asman and the Asman who wrote the article were the exact same person, right? I think that's what it is. I'm going to save, just because I want to be careful. But
Take that!
I think it's this. It's this contract, my lord. Mr. Drebber, this is the contract you signed with Mr. Asman. Yes, that's right. The very document, in fact, that proves I had no reason to kill the man. No, I'm afraid not. What? There's something very significant in this newspaper that this newspaper article and the contract have in common. Really? And it's that common link that shows very clearly why you were determined to kill Mr. Odie Asman. It seems the defense has uncovered something the rest of us have missed. So, my learned friend, point out what these two pieces of evidence have in common. Where exactly is the link between this newspaper article and the contract? It's the signature! What these two pieces of evidence have in common is a signature. A signature? Oh, there's the... Here comes the ambulance to carry fucking Enoch Drebber's ass away. Don't know if you guys could hear that. Oh, that's funny. The signature on the illustration that accompanies the 10-year-old article and the signature on the contract belong to the same person. What? Ah! As the court has heard, this illustration was drawn 10 years ago by the newspaper reporter who found Mr. Drebber and interviewed him about his ordeal. If you look closely, the reporter's signature can be seen in the bottom right corner of the drawing. Of course, you already knew that, didn't you, Mr. Drebber? And if you look at the contract here, which was signed between the witness and the victim last year, you can clearly see Mr. Asman's signature at the bottom. Let me see now. Good lord, yes! They're identical! In short, the journalist who drew the illustration and wrote the article published about Mr. Drebber 10 years ago was the victim of this case, Mr. Odie Asman. Damn, he fell down.
Objection!
Discount Sephiroth ass. But explain to the court why. Why would that constitute a motive for the witness to murder Asman? Well, if you think back, you'll remember that Mr. Drebber talked about that article in his testimony. Grave robbing, you say? Yes, exhuming fresh corpses to sell is reasonably lucrative. That is quite beyond the pale. You would invite divine retribution, sir. Yes, well, I think I suffered retribution enough. The Daily Circus eventually unearthed my name and put it in print. It caused me a great many headaches. In the end, I had to leave the university. That was the only paper with the bad grace to identify me unambiguously, I might add. Then I gave up on my dream of becoming a scientist, and it was all because of that newspaper article. It's true! At the time, you were a student of the University of London who dreamt of becoming a scientist. However, this single newspaper article changed your entire life. So Mr. Asman used to be a newspaper journalist, did he? He did, my lord. In fact, it's a widely held belief that Asman managed to position himself at the heart of his criminal network, thanks to the many dubious connections he made during his time as a reporter. So you had to give up on your dream and leave university. You lost everything. Eventually you found yourself working in the field of science, but only in the shadows. And all because of that article. Written by Mr. Asman. Enough! Stop this endless drivel about my life. What? Explain yourself, Mr. Drebber. Yes, it's true. I had to leave the university as a result of that article. But it was just the straw that broke the camel's back. What do you mean? Almost every student of science in the faculty was too poor to actually conduct any research. But they struggled on with their hypotheses anyway. We all did, only to have them taken by vultures. Sooner or later, you knew your ideas would be stolen and patented by some wretch or other after all. Good gracious! Making a name for yourself as a scientist in a climate like that was a miracle only a select few geniuses could ever hope to achieve. Personally, I wasn't one of those geniuses, so it was hardly a wrench. Being forced out of the university because of Logate was the best thing that could have happened to me.
Objection.
Mr. Drebber, do you genuinely believe that? Of course I do. Who's better placed to know whether or not I possess a talent for science than me? I'm sorry to say that your words don't ring true at all. How dare you! And I have evidence to prove it. How are you in a position to say anything about me? I don't know you from Adam. Fine, if you think you have evidence, go ahead, show it! What could you possibly have to disprove the idea that I was happy to leave university because I lacked talent? So why would he not have been happy to leave university because he lacked talent? Oh, because he did have talent. Yeah, he had this.
Take that!
It's because he had talent. It wasn't because he wasn't happy. Do you remember this, Mr. Drebber? We found it at your workshop. Is that a Royal Society trophy for excellence in science? What exactly is this trophy, Council? It's the greatest honor that can be bestowed upon a young scientist, my lord. There is no higher accolade. It recognizes emerging talent and promises a bright future. Good gracious! Your prospects for the future were excellent, weren't they, Mr. Drebber? Because even then, you were a genius in your field. But you lost everything. You had no more future. Your talents would go to waste. All as a result of this one newspaper article. I don't know when you realized who Mr. Asman was, but when it dawned on you that he was the same journalist who 10 years ago ruined your life, it's abundantly clear that you had no intention of forgiving the man. The truth is... Finally, he's going to fold. I don't know about that. He's on the verge of it, though. Nope. Oh. Who said hold it? Scythe, I'm assuming. Yep.
Fine. Clearly this has run its course now.
What?
I admit it. All of it.
What? What are you doing?
It's exactly as the Japanese man said. I was coerced into going along with this man's plot to murder the victim, on the condition that he kept my dirty secret from 10 years ago.
No. Good Lord! Dr. Scythe, do you realize what you're saying, woman?
It's all true. That day, when I arrived at the Crystal Tower and saw the birdcage, my heart nearly stopped beating. That memory from a decade ago that I'd done my best to bury deep inside myself. It was the professor again, staring me in the face. And then, before I had a chance to react, I noticed something else. There was a note tucked inside the model's jacket. Dr. Scythe, you will go along with my plan, from someone who knows the truth about what really happened that night 10 years ago.
That night 10 years ago. Interesting.
All the instructions were in the note. Every detail was meticulously written out. I had no choice but to do what it said. I made the necessary alterations to the scene and fabricated the autopsy report as instructed. There was really no other choice. It had to be done to protect the judiciary. I can only apologize now.
Wow. So in order to stop him from spilling everything... Yeah, there's more. There's absolutely way more to this. And she knows that if it continues going this way, it's going to blow wide open. And the truth is actually going to be leaked out. So she's cutting it off at the head and sacrificing herself to do so right now. It's not going to blow up quite yet. They're just teasing us with the truth so far. Why on earth would you buckle now?
Well, there's no point in trying to hide it anymore, is there? I would have done anything to stop it coming out, even collaborate in a murder. But the great lie about that execution 10 years ago has been exposed. Whatever happens, I'm finished.
So then, Mr. Drebber, what do you say to that? Your accomplice has admitted everything.
Surely it goes without saying.
You admit your part in it too, then?
I admit nothing! At all!
What? We gotta corner him one more time.
Have you forgotten that the kinesis machine was ripped to shreds by an explosion? Short of me admitting to a crime, there's really no possible way for you to prove I did anything wrong. No!
Order!
Whatever this man says, I admit everything. He threatened to expose my secret, so I went along with his plan. And Lord Van Ziegs?
Yes.
I hope you'll accept my apologies. What happens next is in your hands, of course.
Interesting. I have heard more than enough now. I hereby present the final findings of this court. Wow. He's cutting it off. This trial is not the proper forum in which to pursue the alleged wrongdoings of Mr. Drebber. The defendant is Professor Albert Harebrain.
Very true. It had slipped my mind. Isn't he one of your closest friends?
As the court has heard, Dr. Scythe has admitted to the allegations brought by the defense, thereby absolving the defendant of any possible guilt.
You mean...
At the present time, it is the conclusion of this court that the defendant was not involved in any wrongdoing. Does the prosecution have any objection? None, my lord.
Oh, congratulations, Mr. Naruhodo. You've proven Professor Hairbrain's innocence.
Well, that's one small victory. But, I mean, kind of want to know the rest. Without further ado, then, the adjudication. Unless the prosecution or defense have any other matters to discuss?
Not right now, I guess.
I don't know. This doesn't feel quite right. Why did Dr. Scythe suddenly admit to it like that? Why to cover things up?
Is everything alright, Mr. Naruhodo?
Like you said before, the way the trial is set to end now, the judge will certainly deliver a verdict of not guilty. But is that really what we even want? What the defense should be pushing for now is... Oh, wow. Are we the ones that have to say, nah, fuck this shit, we want the truth, bitch? I mean, this is the only option. This is the only option.
Objection!
The defense objects to the trial ending at this time, my lord. I beg your pardon? We demand one final testimony. What? Ooh. You do realize I'm about to adjudicate in favor of your client, I presume? What are you playing at now, my Nipponese friend? Why would you want to obstruct the conclusion of the trial at this point? No defense lawyer in his right mind would do that.
Mr. Naruhodo, what exactly are you thinking?
The truth. The whole truth, and a way to bring it all out into the open.
Right.
Yes, in hindsight. Ah yes, one word of warning before I go. Yeah, this. If in the course of the trial this afternoon you perceive even a shadow of doubt about the truth, don't let it out of your sight. Pursue it like a dog with a bone. To the bitter end, you understand. Do not falter, whatever may come to pass. So true, Sholmes. I'm sure Mr. Sholmes knew. He must have deduced that this would happen. Yes, I'm here in court to advocate for my client, and to secure an acquittal. Obviously. But that's not all. I believe that I have a duty to the court to pursue the whole truth of the case until every last detail is laid bare. And that is why the defense calls for further testimony from Dr. Scythe.
Testimony from me? About what?
About the nature of your collaboration with Mr. Enoch Drebber.
Huh! In case it's escaped your attention, I've already admitted to everything I did. The whole truth has already been revealed. So stop wasting everyone's time. Ugh! As his lordship made very plain, your client will get the acquittal you wanted for him. There's simply no point protracting this business further with another tedious cross-examination.
Objection!
Ooh. Yo, fuck the gallery, let's go! Pray forgive my careless handling of that hollowed bottle. I slipped. I'm fucking bleeding out here! Oh boy. That's what you call it? What is your objection, my Lord Van Zeech? The prosecution also calls for supplementary testimony from the witness.
Don't be stupid!
Yo, he stands up. Let's go. If there is more to this case than yet has come to light, then I will join my learned friend in pursuing the facts until the bitter end.
Yo, what?
Lord Van Zeeks.
This is most irregular, to say the least. However, as the prosecution also calls for it, I will uphold the request. Dr. Scythe, you will testify for the court, explaining the full extent of your involvement in the murder apparently committed by Mr. Drebber.
Very well.
Goddamn. Here we go.
It all began at the scene when I saw the waxwork and the note tucked inside its jacket. The actual body of the victim, as indicated in the note's instructions, was beneath the experimentation stage. The body had to be arranged in certain ways to implicate the defendant, which was my job. I enlisted the help of the entire forensic investigation team to dress the scene appropriately. The truth about the execution 10 years ago is a state secret of the highest level. I had to protect it.
This shall be interesting. So I was right. The stage and the machine were all specially designed for the deception.
So it seems, and all meticulously prepared. You did well to see through it. You're a very shrewd boy.
So kind of you to say.
And what about this autopsy report then? All I did was record the location of the body as being in the Crystal Tower instead of under the stage.
You know, sometimes I really like checking the character profiles because I want to see like how old everyone is. Damn, Herlock's 34? I didn't know that. He's 47. He's 33. I did not expect that either. But he did say that he'd been over in Germany for like 10 years after college, so that makes sense actually. They're the same age. Last man, we have no idea. Gina's 18. Gregson, 45. I know she's 26. 40. 11. Bohemian Boy. We don't have his actual name. That's interesting. And we also don't know why his head is wrapped up in bandages. What happened to him? Maybe there's more to him than on. Why did I skip over that? I don't know. 39, 35. She's older than I expected her to be, actually. Though I guess it does make sense, considering her daughter looks like she's, what, 12, 13? Somewhere around there. So that, yeah, that kind of makes sense.
All I did was record the location of the body as being in the Crystal Tower instead of under the stage. That's all? That's a terrible corruption! Only my team were aware of the deceit, and then only under my explicit instructions. Nobody else at Scotland Yard knew anything about it, I assure you.
We must be thankful for small mercies, I suppose. Well, I believe that testimony has clarified everything. There's no particular need for a cross-examination, I would say.
No, I disagree. I can't shake the feeling that something's wrong. Just look at that expression on Dr. Sai's face. It's the defense's right to cross-examine any witness following testimony.
What is it about you Japanese that makes you all so doggedly persistent?
Very well, if you so desire, counsel. Proceed with the cross-examination.
Yes, my lord. Okay. So we're gonna press the living hell out of this. From what you described before, it sounds like the note was anonymous. Did you have any idea of who was behind it?
There are very few people in the know about what really happened 10 years ago to start with. But anyway, I'd never heard of this engineer. So no, I had no idea.
Yet despite not knowing who was behind the plan, you went along with it?
I had no choice. Protecting the professor's secret was my only concern.
But the horse has bolted now, and the stable door will never shut again. Scotland Yard's reputation will be immeasurably damaged as a result of this.
Yes, thank you, Lord Van Zeeks. I'm well aware of that.
So as I understand it, what you found in the birdcage was the waxwork model. Where, then, was the victim's body?
The actual body of the victim, as indicated in the note's instructions, was beneath the experimentation stage. So you knew about the special construction of the stage used to carry out the trick then? It was quite obvious what had happened with the victim and the waxwork. And you switched the two over, didn't you? In other words, you recorded the victim's body as having been discovered in the Crystal Tower. And the waxwork? I wrapped it and sent it by carriage to the specified address at the specified time. And why were you given such directions? Presumably so it could be recovered by Drebber and returned to Madame Tuspel's. I see. And then you put the birdcage back on the experimentation stage? Yes, although someone obviously made a mistake about which cage should go where. I thought I'd made it perfectly clear to the team, but still. I suppose you were focused on the victim's body, that being a more important detail.
Hold it!
I need to know about these specific ways. When you say arranged, I assume you mean with this? Yes, the instructions in the engineer's notes said something along the lines of, fabricate some evidence to make it clear that Hairbrain alone could have killed Asman. So, you mean that was your doing? I fetched Hairbrain's ridiculous screwdriver from the stage and took it with me, alone, to the abyss under the stage where the birdcage had fallen.
Alone, Doctor?
I didn't feel it would be appropriate to involve anybody else in that particular part of the deception. Oh wow, we're getting in-depth here. There was a void under the stage where I found the birdcage lying in the dirt. I approached it, leaned down, and slowly opened it up. Oh, we're going deep here. Then I took the screwdriver in both hands and plunged it into the man's chest. And then you noted that in your fake autopsy report, as a fictitious cause of death. Exactly.
So, the actual cause of death was...
the trauma resulting from the 30-foot drop.
My word.
What is it, Miss Usato? Something about Dr. Sai's last statement is playing on my mind, that's all.
Yes, mine too.
Dr. Scythe. There's really no need to shout. I can hear you perfectly well.
The defense calls for you to add what you just said to your formal testimony.
Oh? Which part?
What I want her to supplement her testimony with is... So the real cause of death would be the 30-foot drop, right? But he was in the birdcage, so how could that have been the case? That's what I'm confused with. What she did to the victim. What oh what? See, the part that confuses me here is the fact that there's the glass here. It's so confusing. Because we do have... Yeah, you said the dirt, right? Then why was the picture taken in the Crystal Tower? You had to have moved the body, right? I think they already said that they moved the body, though. I think I'm getting caught up on something that has already been proven. Because that's what confuses me. So we're going to try... I think it's the real cause of death, but we're going to try what she did to the victim first, because I want to see if I can find something with that. How you stabbed Mr. Asman in the chest. That part.
Fine, if that's what you want. But there's really no need to point.
The prosecution concurs. I think that was somewhat of a joke because he was also pointing.
Very well. We'll supplement your testimony now, witness.
If you wish, my lord.
So I stood over the victim's court where it lay in the toppled cage and plumbed the screwdriver into the chest. Okay, so that's not much of anything. So we'll go back and swap it with the other one. I mean what you did with this, correct? Merely carrying out the engineer's instructions, in his words. Fabricate some evidence to make it clear that Hairbrain alone could have killed Asmund. I can't skip through this, interesting. And so you went without any of your team to where Asmund had fallen.
That's right, yes.
Okay, so now we get this again. Leaned down over the birdcage, opened it up, took the screwdriver in both hands and plunged it into the man's chest.
You know, if you think it would be appropriate, I'm sure you could ask Dr. Scythe to change the supplementary testimony she gave before.
Oh, yeah, that's what I expected. Change it. Swap it over to the other one. What you said before about the real cause of death, I believe that may be significant, so could you change your supplementary statement to explain that instead?
Very well.
I don't think that's possible. We haven't gotten the ability to look at the other birdcage. But I mean, come on. He's strapped in. How would he have died from a broken neck? Doing that. It's so confusing to me. Because I feel like it's this, but then there's like a nagging feeling at the back of my head that's doubting it, right? It's gonna be tough. So let's just rule things out. That's my best way of doing this. Actual cause of death was the neck trauma Asmund suffered from the 30-foot fall. So I don't think this has anything to do with it. That doesn't have anything to do with it. I mean, that's how he fell through. I feel like I'm jumping too far ahead by saying that. The birdcage... Are we trying to say that this was the birdcage that was used that actually had Asmund inside? Is that what we're trying to say here? Because I thought that this was the one that was at the Crystal Tower, right? But maybe that's not the case. Maybe that was the one that had Asmund in it. I mean, can we see like a portion of the birdcage that identifies? I don't think we can. We can see the bits of the Crystal Tower stuff here. Right? which means that that photo had to have been taken over there. It's very confusing, to be sure. Let's... I think I'm going to swap it one more time and then try and present that picture, because that's like the best thing that I have currently. And we will skip through this, of course. Get her to swap it. But it doesn't say where she was. See, that's the problem. That's the problem with me. What you said before about what you did to the victim's body, I believe that may be significant, so could you change your supplementary statement to explain that instead? I don't know why we just can't have both, but I guess that's too easy. Where it lay in the toppled cage. Okay, so we'll save one more time. This is a tough one, because there's nothing that like is 100%. I feel like.
Objection!
Oh, we got it though. I've got a nasty feeling that this inconsistency points to an extremely uncomfortable truth.
What on earth is the matter, Counsel? Have you lost your tongue?
I apologize, my lord. Dr. Scythe, in that last statement of yours, there's just one point that seems to defy explanation. Out with it, my learned friend. There's an obvious inconsistency between your description and this photograph, which shows the victim in the birdcage following the events that led to his death.
Objection!
The court has already examined that photograph in depth. There's nothing new we can learn from it. Yes, we have already considered it, that's true. But we now know the facts to be different. What do you mean?
I believe we should let the defense explain. Where in this photograph would we see the alleged inconsistency?
It would be the glass, wouldn't it?
Take that!
The point that makes no sense is the one being made at this very moment by your index finger. Huh? Your roving eyes and wavering hand undermine the bold words you started with. And if you're looking for something that makes no sense, you're pointing in the wrong way.
Apparently the victim was lying dead in the birdcage when Dr. Scythe stabbed him in the chest. That was the essence of her testimony.
I know, and hearing that is when I thought, got it. But then somehow I lost my train of thought at the last moment and it turned into a not it.
Don't worry, Mr. Naruhodo. I'm sure if you try again, it will turn back into a got it.
I believe we should let the defense explain.
Then what would it be? I thought it was the fact that the picture was taken up in the Crystal Tower, but maybe not. It could be the wound. It could be the mouth. I don't know. I guess we'll save. Because this is not what I was expecting. So the inconsistency. So let me think through this before I just start guessing, because I like to figure things out, right? You like it when people figure things out when they play the videos and not just guess, right? So that's my thought process here. So she said that she stood over his lifeless body, he was already dead, and stabbed him in the chest. 2 hands. Stabbed in the chest. I don't think that's... The only thing that I could think of off the top of my head is the rigor mortis stuff. Because she said that the jaw would be like... that she had trouble with the jaw. When it was already... So it was the timing. I'm assuming it's the timing, and it has to do with the rigor mortis in the jaw, right?
Take that!
Yes, let's go. The point that makes no sense is... Nope, damn it. You know, this game's good at baiting me. Alright, fine. Maybe the stabbing then. Yep, look closely at the bloodstain on the victim's chest. It clearly extends in a downwards direction towards the man's feet.
And why is that significant, Counsel?
Oh, that's what he's saying. I wouldn't have thought of that, actually. Saying that gravity had the blood go downwards when she stabbed him, so he was stabbed first, then dropped.
If the victim was stabbed moments before the kinesis machine was set in motion, that's entirely expected. Ah! Of course, no, that's not what happened!
Exactly, my lord. Dr. Scythe made it very clear in her testimony just now that the point at which she stole Professor Hairbrain's screwdriver and stabbed the victim was after the grand deception was set in motion, when the birdcage had fallen below the stage and out of sight. From the shape of it, it's clear that the birdcage would have fallen on its side after the 30-foot drop. And if the victim had really been stabbed whilst inside the birdcage in that position, the blood from the wound would have spread out equally in all directions. For it to have formed the longitudinal appearance we see in the picture is inconceivable. Ah! Given that the victim's blood seeped vertically downwards from the wound, it must be the case that when you stabbed Mr. Asman, he was standing up. In short, Dr. Scythe, your latest testimony was a total fabrication. Ah! Ah! I knew it. I was right. Now I've identified that contradiction. There's only one way to explain the facts. We've all been under a great misapprehension here.
What?
What sort of misapprehension? Dr. Scythe, you claim you were coerced into helping Mr. Drebber as a result of the note he left in the waxwork. You claim that you made changes to the scene of the crime to implicate the defendant. And you claim you authored a fake autopsy report to cover your tracks. But one of those claims is an out-and-out lie. Because the question of what the bloodstain really tells us only has one possible answer. If that is the case, what is it, man?
Counsel, you've clearly struck upon a revelation. Now tell the court what it is. Which part of Dr. Scythe's story is shown to be a lie by the contradiction in her testimony?
It has to be the stabbing of the victim, right? I mean, it would have to be. Because the autopsy report... it could be the autopsy report. But we know the stabbing of the victim... I think the stabbing of the victim did happen. I'll say the autopsy report. You say that you examined the body and wrote this report based on your findings. But that's a blatant lie, isn't it?
I'm sorry, but I simply can't fathom what you're attempting to say.
I'm trying to determine whether I'm wrong. The truth is, you had... No. That is not it. I don't even need to read any more of that. So my first thought was correct, and then I told myself it wasn't. The answer is very simple if you consider the sequence of events. If, when the victim was stabbed, the blood from the wound seeped downwards as it did, we can be sure that the victim must have been either sitting or standing upright at the time. But as you rightly pointed out, the birdcage would have fallen on its side when it fell beneath the stage. Yes, it would, which tells us that the victim must have been in that position of his own accord.
Objection!
That's impossible! The man was dead, remember? No, that is the misapprehension. When the birdcage fell from the stage into the void below, it must have hit the ground with considerable force. But Mr. Asmund didn't die in the fall. He probably lost consciousness for a while, but when he came round, he got to his feet to climb out of the cage. Just as Dr. Scythe appeared. If the victim was in fact alive at that point in time, it changes everything. Interesting. Mr. Odie Asmund's killer wasn't the defendant, Professor Albert Harebrain, nor was it the mastermind behind the stage trickery, Mr. Enoch Drebber. It was you, Dr. Courtney Scythe. Ah!
Order! Can this possibly be true?
Have you been taking me for a fool? It was you, was it? You killed him? You hoped that by admitting to being an accomplice in Mr. Drebber's scheme, the trial would end, before you were accused of a far worse crime. Cold-blooded murder.
No, do shut up! You're so desperate now you're making all this up, as if I would ever do something like that.
Oops, hit the wrong thing.
Objection!
That was Susato's objection?
I assure you the defense is not desperate, Doctor. Mr. Naruhodo has established the facts using evidence and logic alone. Ha! Logic? Don't make me laugh. Sadly, your logic has a gaping hole in it.
What? What do you mean?
I'd have thought it was obvious. A motive, boy. You're lacking a motive. What possible reason would I have to kill Mr. Asmund?
Mr. Asmund was involved in any number of criminal activities, from coercion to theft to murder. But there is no known connection to Dr. Scythe there.
I'm rather relieved to say it does seem somewhat far-fetched.
True, there's no obvious motive, but there's still something in the back of my mind. I feel sure I've seen something somewhere that hints at why the coroner might have done this.
Yes, I might have tampered with the crime scene and concocted a fake report. But murdering someone for no reason is a very different story.
Objection.
No, when you questioned what possible reason you could have for wanting to kill Mr. Asmund, something did come to mind.
What?
What was it, Counsel? Enlighten the court at once.
This is the last piece of evidence. Yes, we saw it yesterday, didn't we? Something that seemed strange, but we had no reason to suspect it at the time. There's a particular object that explains why Dr. Scythe would have wanted to kill Mr. Asmund. Oh, that makes sense somewhat with the 500, yeah, the 500 scalpels. But I am going to save here. It's a scalpel, or rather, scalpels.
Did you say scalpels?
Ah!
It would appear that word has struck a chord, Doctor.
You! Come on, out with it!
It was yesterday when we visited your lab. Look at this big, thick book here.
Ah, it appears to be an accounting ledger. It's a record of the forensic investigation team's spending, I think.
Oh? What is it?
It's clear that the team purchases various equipment and supplies on a monthly basis, but, well, one entry seems rather strange.
Really? In what way?
They're buying 500 scalpels every month!
500 scalpels? A month?
At first I wondered what on earth you could be using that many scalpels for. But actually, I realize now it's not the scalpels themselves that are significant. It's the money for them, disappearing every month from the department's accounts. Asmund's criminal organization relied heavily on extortion for its funding. Tracing the money from the forensic investigation team's account to find out where it was going would be extremely straightforward. 10 years ago, when Mr. Asmund was still a journalist and wrote this article about Mr. Drebber, he may well have stumbled upon information as he was researching the story. Information relating to Dr. Sai's darkest secret that he would use to rack money from her for the next decade.
Her darkest secret? Good lord, you mean?
I don't know what happened on the night of that execution 10 years ago, but clearly the opportunity to rid yourself of that menace was too tempting to pass up. So in the end, you weren't coerced at all, were you? You did it entirely of your own free will. You stabbed Mr. Asmund in the heart with all your might. To silence the blackmailer who knew your dark secret forever.
You'll never understand. None of you. What we've had to keep covered up all these long years.
Well, maybe we will understand by the end of this game, but not today, unfortunately. As very little of the machine remains after it was ripped apart by the bomb, the truth of this case can never be properly established unless you speak out.
And if you decide not to, it's very possible that Courtney Scythe will escape punishment for her crimes. Please, sir, own up to what you've done and tell the court about the truth of what happened.
10 years ago, you told the truth, and you were robbed of a bright and successful future as a result. I can certainly understand your bitterness and your consternation now. However, this is surely the chance you've been waiting for. Sever the hold that fate's had over you all these years. Super high voltage instantaneous kinesis? I mean, really. It's the addle-brained mock scientists that are the worst, you know. They don't recognize the fact that they don't have talent. They can't even get that right. And so they end up chasing impossible dreams, having unbridled faith in their abilities. They go on and on about their wonderful hypotheses, their stupid eyes shining like a child's. They make me sick! I can't abide their foolishness!
Careful, Mr. Drebber.
I was particularly pleased with the kinesis machine. It made for quite a show, didn't it?
So you admit it? You admit that it was nothing more than a sham made for the purpose of killing the victim?
Yes, I admit it. I did it all in the name of revenge.
Revenge for the future that Mr. Asmund's article had deprived you of 10 years earlier. But the revenge you sought didn't stop at Asmund, did it? Which is where that very particular waxwork comes in. Yes, I see.
The condemned convict that you saw rising from the grate in Lowgate Cemetery 10 years ago. If your account of those events was all true,
Then obviously Scotland Yard couldn't afford to acknowledge what had happened. Even if it meant discrediting a bright young man and crushing any future career he might have had. So your plan required that you abduct that particular waxwork model in order to exact your revenge on Scotland Yard as well. Or on Dr. Scythe, to be precise.
it was a year ago. By some extraordinary twist of fate, Asmund turned up at my workshop. He didn't remember who I was, of course. He just wanted to employ my services as an engineer. And he happened to have a paper with him. An article on the front page caught my eye. About the coroner who'd handled that bogus autopsy being appointed head of a new forensic team. When I learned that news, my cognitive processes started to devise the plan. What a horrid tale. He robbed me of my future, so I wanted to use the man's own wiles against him, for revenge. And have that rotten Scotland Yard eating out of my hand at the same time. I wanted them all to suffer the same humiliation I'd had to suffer. Your actions against those who'd ruined your future were justified as revenge, at least to yourself. Certainly no one has the right to destroy another's prospects, especially for purely selfish gain. And yet, in carrying out your plan, you did exactly that to someone else, didn't you? Did I? Professor Harebrain's only crime was passion for his hypothesis, but you had no compunction about sacrificing his future to effect your revenge. You knew that he would be forever branded as a failure and a fraud. Perhaps life treated you unfairly 10 years ago, and others' misconduct left your life in tatters. But remember this, your own actions resulted in exactly the same thing for another perfectly innocent young man. Damn.
Lord Van Zeeks, what of Dr. Scythe?
An immediate warrant for her arrest has been granted and she's been remanded in custody, my lord. I presume she will face trial in the coming days, along with Mr. Drever.
A most regrettable situation indeed. She's made great contributions to her profession over the years. It really is a hard truth to swallow. However, that is a topic for some future occasion. For now, Professor Harebrain...
Yes?
It seems there was a great deal more to your experiment than you realized. However, I think we can assume now that all the sordid details have been brought to light. This has been a very long and profound trial, but I'm pleased to say you are absolved of all guilt.
This whole experience has taught me a very great but painful lesson. Me, this dedicated scientist, this devotee of natural philosophy. I've been selfish and self-centered, and above all, a fool.
Professor.
I've spent my life thinking of nothing but my research. misguidedly believing that I could do whatever I set my mind to, despite my lack of talent. And the worst of it is, in the process, I've caused others pain and misery. Others who are far greater people than I.
No, Professor, that's not true.
What?
Don't tar yourself with the same brush as Drebber. What happened was his doing and his alone. This outcome is his fate, not yours. You're not to blame in any way.
Lord Van Zieks.
And the derision with which he referred to you earlier, calling you a fool, talentless even. The man has no idea. To believe in yourself and work your fingers to the bone to realize your dreams, that's laudable, not laughable. No one has the right to deride another for such choices.
Oh. Thank you, Barrack.
So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury,
Yes, my lord.
it is this court's expectation that you find the defendant not guilty of the charge of which he stands accused. I presume there are no objections?
None for me, my lord.
Certainly not.
This trial has really made me think, but this is the right decision.
It's all been proven methodically and rigorously. I have no misgivings whatsoever.
What's that? He's done, is he? It's all over?
I don't know what's become of the yard these days. I don't recognize the place. Very well. In that case, I hereby pronounce the defendant not guilty. Boo!
Fireworks inside. We're gonna have another fire.
Court is adjourned.
Bop. You know what? I'm gonna finish the epilogue of this case. We're gonna finish the epilogue here, and then next time we'll do the fourth trial. It's over. That was some trial. This is a really good case, by the way. I loved it. Professor, what a splendid outcome, isn't it?
Oh, it is, isn't it? Oh, it is. Congratulations, Professor Hairbrain. Mr. Naruhodo. Miss Susato. I am truly beside myself with gratitude. How can I ever thank you enough?
I'm just glad it's all been cleared up. That you realize you were just caught up in a bad situation.
Ah, right now, you know, if I had that research grant money. Ah, I'd give the whole lot to you, every penny.
Well, that's very kind, but I'm just a student, so...
We don't need any financial reward. Your acquittal is more than enough.
No, fuck you, Susato. Give me the money.
Oh dear. Oh, what can I do?
I missed that, I think.
Aha!
That's what he said.
How about this? As a memento, the paper about my hypothesis is inside.
Well, just as a memento then. Thank you.
I've been wondering, Professor, what are you going to do now? Oh my. Yes, what am I going to do? My hypothesis and my great machine lie in ruins. But still, it's been too long since I was last in London, so perhaps I'll enjoy some sightseeing. I must explore the Great Exhibition whilst I'm here too, and see if new inspiration hits me. Oh yes, that's a wonderful idea.
I can't allow that. Oh, it is him. Look, Lord Van Zieks, what are you doing in here?
Barrack!
I'm sorry you had to go through that, Albert.
Well, if I'm honest, it was terrifying. You were like a great demon behind your bench there, snarling down on your prey.
You're one of the few true friends I have. I couldn't leave it to anybody else to handle the prosecution. or the defense.
Sorry? Or the defense? Did I just hear that right? I always knew that you had my best interests at heart, don't worry. Ah, how about you show me around while I'm here in town? It's been a long time since we left university. We have a lot to catch up on.
Listen, Albert. In a few days, your acquittal will be made official. When that happens, you must head straight to Dover. I'll accompany you.
What?
From there, you'll cross the channel and make your way back to Germany. I've already purchased the tickets.
But no! Hold on a minute, Barrick. What about the Great Exhibition? This is the chance of a lifetime for me. I want to look around.
No sightseeing, Albert. Give up on the idea.
Sometimes it's hard to see any warmth in those eyes, Barrick.
Lord Van Zeeks.
What's all this about?
A necessary precaution.
Yes, I think I understand.
You do?
Well, Iris told me that when you meet Lord Van Zeeks at his office some days ago, he asked how Mr. Natsume was doing.
Yes, that's right. I remember being surprised at the time and thinking it was nice of him to ask.
The point is, Mr. Natsume is still alive and well. Even though it's been more than 6 months now since he stood trial with the Reaper as the prosecutor.
Ah, you mean the Reaper's influence doesn't stretch overseas? Those in the Reaper's sights meet their ends days or sometimes months after their acquittal. That's been the pattern up to now.
But of course we know that both Mr. Natsume and Gina were completely innocent.
True. And perhaps that governs the Reaper's actions. The truly innocent are spared. But I don't want to take any chances with a close personal friend.
But Barrick...
Like the mustached Nipponese, this man should leave the country without delay. That's why I'm packing him off to Germany at once.
Right. Does your friend-shaped package get any say in it? Goodness, was this your intention all along then, Lord Van Zeeks?
In court, where people think of him as the Reaper, this man seems absolutely merciless. And yet, sometimes I feel as though I don't understand him at all. It's time to go, Albert. Back to the prison for the time being.
Ah, yes, all right. Well then, Mr. Naruhodo. Thank you so much for everything.
Not at all, Professor. It was a pleasure getting to know you.
Best wishes, Professor Hairbrain. Well, once the dust is settled, you must come and visit me in Germany. Anyway, goodbye for now.
Now, my Nipponese friend. Oh, yes? I thought you'd gone too. We have matters to discuss. Can you spare me some time? You want to talk with me? I'll be waiting in the courtroom in 10 minutes. Oh, really? This is going to be interesting. Well, that was strange. For some reason, I didn't get that sense of impending doom as he walked away this time. The enigma of Barrick Van Zeeks. What does he want to discuss, I wonder? The answer awaits in the courtroom, I suppose. Here goes then. Uh-oh! This is gonna be the stinger for the next case, too. Oh, boy. Maybe this will be like a flashback case of some sort. So, are you satisfied? You saved a guileless scientist from a great injustice. Yes, I think so. I'm relieved, at least, that the man's innocence could be proven. Anyway, I imagine you've been wondering where my animosity towards you Nipponese comes from. Oh, really? Right out with it, huh?
Well, at first I thought you just didn't like me. I imagine you saw me as a pretentious child from an unimportant land who had no business being here. But now I think differently. You clearly know our ways, so I would guess that some specific incident led to your thorough dislike of my race. Will you tell me what happened, please? The Professor. I thought I'd never hear that name in this courtroom again, to be honest. He took your brother's life. Clint. My brother was Clint Van Zeeks. 16 years ago, when I was still just in my teens, he was already the director of prosecutions and a key member of the judiciary. I looked up to him. He was everything I aspired to be. He was involved in the establishment of justice systems in foreign countries as well. There were exchange programs between Britain and other nations then too, to share knowledge and ideas. As part of one of these programs, 3 judicial students came to Britain from your homeland, the Empire of Japan. One of them was her father, I'm assuming.
Oh, if it was 16 years ago, then one of them could have been my father.
Of course, I remember Dr. Mikotoba well.
I had no idea.
I was a minor at the time, training in the prosecutor's office. One day, Clint introduced me to the 3 visiting Nipponese.
So, you've actually met my father?
He and his colleagues were polite and amicable. They were adept at their work and exacting in their standards. It was my first encounter with the Nipponese spirit, and it made a very grand impression upon me. But 6 years later, that's when it happened. The investigation was going nowhere. There were no suspects even, just an ever-growing list of victims. And in the end, my brother became one of them. The last, in fact, before the case was finally resolved.
I'm so sorry, Lord Van Zeeks. Truly.
Clint was always ready to put his life on the line for justice anyway. So he wouldn't have wanted it any other way. He lost his life to the killer, but it was his victory in the end. For me personally, though, it was a great loss. I found myself in a very dark place indeed. When I finally found out the killer's identity, the reason why no one had been able to catch the man sooner ceased to be such a mystery. He'd been hiding in plain sight all the time.
In plain sight?
Are you aware of political events 10 years ago? It was a period of extremely sensitive diplomacy between the British and Japanese empires.
A new treaty was being forged, I think.
Correct. The Anglo-Japanese Treaty of Friendship and Navigation was being concluded. The leaders of both countries were deep in extensive political discussions. Which is why this particular killer's appearance in court was conducted as a closed trial. If the British public had known the identity of the killer, not only would the treaty have been in jeopardy, but our 2 nations could very well have ended up at war.
What? A war? Between Britain and Japan? But that would mean... Oh my! You mean to say the professor was...
One of the Japanese. He has the key, doesn't he?
When the trial reached its conclusion earlier, I thought to myself, yes, it's time.
Oh, wow.
Time for you to come face to face with this hideous monster. I borrowed the key for the mask from the proprietress of the Waxwork Museum. So see for yourselves now. Confirm it with your own eyes. The truth that's been hidden this past decade.
That's the professor?
Yes, that's him.
Until now, the thought never even crossed my mind. That the mass murderer, whose crimes shook Britain as never before, was Japanese.
Interesting.
Wait a minute. That face. I feel as though I've seen it somewhere. It's strangely familiar.
Oh, really? Uh-oh. Oh, boy.
Father.
Ooh!
Father? Kazuma! My best friend.
Ooh, boy!
Asogi. After a whole year, finally his memories returned. As he stood there before me, Ryunosuke. Hello again. My friend.
Kazuma-sama!
Judicial Assistant Mikotoba. It's been a very long road. Thank you. Thank you for guiding my friend here when I could not.
It was an honor.
I knew you wouldn't die that easily. Kazuma.
I owe you thanks, too, for taking good care of that in my absence.
Oh. Karuma. The great blade of the Asogi clan. Passed down through the generations. When we left Japan, this sword was at my friend's side. A Japanese man's katana is his soul, and he couldn't be parted from it. But then, when the incident happened, it was Susato-san's wish that I inherit the sword, and I've kept it with me ever since, along with my memories of the friendship we shared. With this by my side, I always felt that you were watching over me somehow.
I've made it. At last. Father.
Are you saying... Surely not. You mean, you knew all this time? I'm looking at it. But... I still can't believe it. This mass murderer is Kazuma's father.
Kazuma-sama.
Ryunosuke, we have much to talk about. But now is not the time. I'll be seeing you.
That's all Kazuma said. Before he turned and left us there, in the courtroom.
What a fucking moment. Holy shit. I didn't want to speak during that because it was voiced in more of a cutscene than anything, but what the actual fuck? You just dropped like 4 bombshells in a row. What? Yes. That's got to be like top 5 Ace Attorney moments of all time. And we haven't even gotten to the end of the game. This is not the end of the game yet. Like, what the hell is going on here? All right, let's keep going. We got to finish this. So he's the living afterimage of the man who took my brother's life, is he? Yes, Kazuma Asogi, my best friend. 3 months ago, when Lord Strongheart introduced us, I had an inkling there was something there, some connection. But why did Lord Strongheart do that? Why did he make Kazuma Lord Van Zeke's apprentice? And when he was suffering amnesia, too. The man was apprehended, even executed. But his legacy just won't die. That's the sad truth. Anyway, that's all I had to say. I thank you for meeting with me as I asked. I've got an inkling that... See, I have an inkling, right? I have an inkling that... Lord Strongheart's the one behind everything, right? And he wanted to wipe out members of the judiciary so that he could move up and become the Attorney General or whatever it is, the head of the judicial system in Britain. And he did that to wipe... He wiped people out as a result of it. And then he pinned the blame on the person who figured it out, being Kazuma's dad. So that's my prediction for the rest of this.
10 years ago, my grandmother took me to the railway station. We were there to meet my father from the train. Wait, for me. It was the first time I'd ever seen him.
Poor Susato-san. All this is tied up with painful memories for her, too. She's never talked about this with me before, though.
It took time to adjust to having father around, but just when I was starting to get used to it, he called me into his study one day. He told me that a great friend of his had passed away in London, and that the friend had left behind a son, a boy 7 years my senior. Father told me the boy had made a promise to his late father, so he was studying to become a defense lawyer. I wanted to help, so I studied to become a qualified judicial assistant. As I'm sure you've worked out, that young man's name was Kazuma Asogi. So you see, that's how he and I met.
For a brief moment, my great friend had returned, only to disappear again all too soon. But in that fleeting encounter, something stirred. Something that had been dormant for a long time, as if great wheels had been set in motion. I could almost hear them creaking into life. In some ways, it was the end of a chapter, but in many, it was the start of a new one.
End. Well then, that is the end of a chapter, but we've got, I think, 2 more cases left, which I have no freaking idea where the hell this is going to go after this. I mean, come on. This is going to be crazy. Episode 4, Twisted Karma and his last bow. Or last bow, one of the two. Wow. That case was ridiculous. And I'm sure we're going to get... there's so many, like, new avenues of exploration that they can do here. I mean, I'm sure that the public reception for Scotland Yard and the whole judicial system is now, I wouldn't say at an all-time low, but it's definitely at a low point. And then on top of that, we don't know what the truth behind the Professor case really is. And that's been even drummed up to be, like, potentially falsified. Lord Strongheart's probably going to be very antagonistic towards us, especially considering that we are single-handedly getting in his way of becoming Attorney General, considering that everything is in a non-favorable position for him now. So I'm sure that he'll probably be more antagonistic toward us going forward. We got the daughter of Dr. Scythe that we saw for a brief moment there and then haven't seen again. She'll probably be around. I don't think we'll see Hairbrain very much, if at all. Gina, of course, coming back. We'll definitely be seeing more of her in the next two cases, which is happy for me because she is my favorite character in the game. I did really like Madame Tuspels, though. I don't know if she'll show up again, but considering that she had sort of a link to the stuff at the end there, at least, and she knows the professor's identity, I would assume that she might be even a victim or something of the sort. Because I think whoever's like behind all this is going to be in like full-blown damage control panic mode, trying to wipe out anyone who's going to try and find the truth, right? So I think it's definitely going to be a little bit more difficult for us moving forward for sure. But yeah, that's it for now. In the next recording session and in the next episode, we're going to be starting episode 4. And I'm not ready. I wasn't ready for the end of this trial, to be quite honest. Those bombshells with Kazuma and... Oh, man. I gotta go look back at my earlier parts to figure out what voice I gave Kazuma to so I can do it more often in the future episodes. So we'll see then. But yeah, thank you guys very much for watching. Thanks for carrying on with me on this wild ride. Make sure to like the video and comment your thoughts and your reactions on this stuff too. And yeah, see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.